last time, there's definitely multiple ways to do this, and it's definitely a case by case scenario, right? Just because you guys all have different designs. I was just looking at rams, and she has some interesting spiral ramps, right? So I love those kinds of problems, right? Because it that's part of the fun of taking the digital realm and going to the physical and seeing how it can be accomplished. I don't know if you guys have seen like Frank Gehry's buildings and some of the latest Morphosis work and Rim Cool House. Like they have some really awesome designs, but of course that came through guys like us. Of course, doing the hard digital work of going from the digital realm to the physical realm. So again, like I said, this is kind of just more studio tools that we can use. But another one is terrain to STL, right? So a stereolithograph file or an STL file is sort of the most universal file of digital modeling, right? So in our case, what's kind of nice is we can basically put this square anywhere and it's going to produce a surface for us in a mesh format. So in our case, this is actually the smallest the box can get. So this is definitely more for like if I was doing a really large site plan, right? This would be awesome, right? I want to get all the topography lines of San Antonio and kind of just rough it. This would be great, right? And of course, have used it for that before. So just to kind of show you what it does, right? We can change, and it's based on the degrees of latitude and longitude. So it's all based on your latitude and longitude lines. Do you guys know where your latitude and longitude lines come from? It's basically if I hold a sextant up and I look at the North Star and it's 45 degrees, then I'm on the 45th latitude, right? And if it's 33 degrees away, then I'm on the 33rd latitude. It's pretty actually ingenious, but just in case you didn't know. But let's go ahead and try and get some topography. Now this doesn't really pertain to this assignment exactly, which is why I gave the first one, but I didn't want to rob you of this technique. So we can control the box, we can control the vertical scaling. I would recommend, honestly, something exaggerated, like 3 or 4. Generate model first, and then download, right? And then, of course, it's going to save a mesh file for us. It's going to put it in a zip format, so we have to double-click, open it, and, it gives us this STL file. Now, in a Mac, you can actually open an STL file in preview, and you can, take a look at it. But in case for our project, we're just going to drag and drop it right in. Rhino's going to say, hey, what do you want to do? I want to import this file. Import. And of course, it's probably going to be the world's tiniest model because it's at a different scale than the feet that we're in. Wow, it's really there. Thought it was there. Maybe it's somewhere else. Hopefully it's not in a different layer. Where'd it go? I hate when my screen is dirty and I think that, things are out there in space. Maybe it's way down there. I just can't see it. Or we can try doing it the right way. I'm just going to File, Import. Sometimes drag and drop it honestly doesn't always work. Usually it has it highlighted no matter what, but I don't see it highlighted. There it is. It's always right there in the middle, isn't it? Holy cow, that's why. It's like the world's smallest model. But yeah, there you go, San Antonio in one little square. However, that's really nice, but we also need to be able to use it, so let's scale it up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. But yeah, this would definitely be more of like a site plan scenario. But I'll keep it in a variable scale so that we can actually see what we're doing here. And refocus it. Sweet. Not too bad. So a couple of things that we can do from this is actually contour it. So I could also exaggerate, I could turn it into a mountainscape if I really wanted to. Like I said, again, this is kind of just for studio purposes. But if I couldn't find something that I liked in San Antonio or was in a rush and couldn't trace things, this would definitely be a healthier alternative. First things first, I want to contour it, but I don't know if I can contour a mesh. So I'm going to type in what and see what this is. And yeah, it looks like it's a valid mesh, right? Geometry, valid mesh. So I don't know if I can contour a mesh. Let's try it out. Yeah, I didn't think so. Oh wait, it's trying. Alright, so it wants a base point. I want to choose the direction of perpendicular lines, so I'm going to choose my Z direction. And I wanted a distance of, honestly, more like an 1/8 inch, so 0.125 inches. And it's actually going to produce a series of lines for us. Of course, it'll take a second. But it's almost like instead of doing the tracing, now I let the program make those lines for me. So let's move that real quick. And apparently I should choose a smaller scale, right? Way too many lines. 1 second. Really surprised my computer was able to do that. There they are. So there's like thousands of lines in there. Let's try that again. Choose the right direction this time. So contour. Let's make sure it's the right direction. I have a feeling I accidentally got a diagonal or something like that. There we go. So base point. Let's try this one. Let's try something else. Let's go with, oh yeah, we're in feet, so I can go with 12 inches actually, so that I can get foot increments. There we go. As you can see, it kind of gives us a wireframe, right, of that. Now obviously, I think I got the wrong angle again, but theoretically, you know, if I was making a laser cut model, this would be a really nice model. You see what I'm saying? All I need to do is print each of these layers, stack them, and bam, I get this whole model, similar to some of those topography models that are actually close to you, right? Let's try a different contour though, different direction. And it really doesn't matter where it is in the model, it matters the direction that I'm choosing, right? Nice. So now I have what appears to be much more similar to what you guys are familiar with, right? A topography model. But easily I could use that for a Make 2D situation or a site model that I was building in class, right? If I wanted the exact topography and I was honestly in a location that, you know, isn't like San Antonio where we can get the hydrology and contour map, right? Which is why I chose San Antonio for this project, so you can actually have some fun tracing some lines. But in Studio, very often we select a place that is not exactly inhabited by everybody else, so a really good tool to use. And obviously I think I don't have to go any farther than here. You could easily take each of these and turn that into a laser cut layer, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? But I didn't have to do any of that tracing whatsoever, right? Of course, a huge time saver. So we'll leave it there. So that was kind of the step 2 of the topography I wanted to show you. The step 2 of kind of the fabrication. We were starting to talk about unrolling some of these shapes and doing things like that. But another thing to consider is that not everything can be laser cut, right? For instance, some things are actually just entirely too small for the laser cutter. In fact, it's a little easier to just create a template, line it up to some chipboard and cut it out, right? With an X-Acto blade or however you wish. So let's take a look at the stairs as if they were done and finished. I did want to mention too, this is another opportunity to really change some things. You don't necessarily need to make everything. So for instance, if you find something that's sort of colliding with itself, and I talked about this a little bit, but you know, for instance, I had one of these going straight through my stairs, right? I decided to kind of make it appear as if that the structure is actually holding up these stairs, right? So constantly when I'm in the digital realm, I'm thinking about what this actually is in the physical also, right? And I do know that these stairs aren't just going to magically hold themselves up, right? You know, I could make the stairs and kind of fit it in there, but it's not going to magically hold itself up. So you may need to decide, you know, for instance, I got a moment right here. I don't think that's going to hold itself up. So in fact, I'm gonna actually move my structure a little bit so that it collides in some way with that geometry, right? So let's go ahead and ungroup this, because I believe I had it grouped from last time. Looks like I have that as a solid piece. However, I do know that that's not going to unroll very well. In fact, let's take a look at what it does. Unroll surface. And this is where explode is going to really come in handy, because if I don't explode that, it's just going to be an absolute mess. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Usually goes very fast for the unroll. I should have grouped them as well. Let's try that again. Honestly, let's just move this guy clear out of the way, because that keeps getting me. Anyway, let's try that again. Unroll surface, explode. But it's essentially going to give us every single piece. Man, I didn't even move far enough. Well, that's not exactly easy to get around, so let's move this guy too. The beauty of the edit undo button. And hide. One last time. Quite a few parts, and definitely some that are more familiar than others, right? As you can imagine, this is not something we can put to the laser cutter, right? But at least we can test it and go, can I, right? Because there are some pieces that I could definitely use for a template, right? You might consider actually, instead of trying to do the entire piece as well, right? Try what it is unexploded. See if maybe if there's a fraction of a piece, but yeah, as I thought and was afraid of, it's just going to be an absolute mess, right? To think that you could even fold that, right? However, it's kind of pretty too. I don't know, as an abstracted, like if I had a giraffe and I exploded the giraffe and put it into a folding, it'd be kind of an interesting abstract project and possibly used for a photo montage. But again, this is definitely more about fabrication. So some of these elements, like I said, we do want to basically perfect our model before we try and make it, right? So another thing to consider is, well, you know, some of these things I might need to actually get out of the way, right? So maybe they actually get a little bit smaller, right, when we change those links. It might be simple things, right, that, you know, that we can actually fix first. We can also trim them, right, so TRIM, and trim them off. We can also get the length of these things, right? So for instance, you know, I can make 2D of some of these elements that, you know, are maybe tricky to me. I can make a copy of them, stick them outside. And, you know, even though it's already familiar to us, is make 2D, right? Another one that we could do is, well, taking pieces of this that we normally made. And I will say you definitely don't have to make the handrails for the model. That's definitely a given. Just the stair portion and just the structure and objects. At this scale, that's just going to be very hard to do. Maybe I'll offer as extra credit if you can figure out how to, of course, accomplish that. Because I can't think of some ways, but I don't want that to be your focus. Anyway, let's talk about trying to get this guy fabricated. So what I would like to do is at least get some of the faces of it. Right now you're already starting to draw some of the pieces and things like that. But like I said, we can create a sort of a jig or a template for ourselves, right? So that there's no question we can build this thing. So first thing that I want to do is actually lay it flat with my horizontal directions. And let's go ahead and put it out in space so it's a little easier to look at. I'll put it up a little bit. There we go. Just so you guys can, of course, see it a lot better. Nice. So first things I want to do is rotate the model so that I can get more of an elevational view of it. And hopefully you have an elevational view, right, of yours. right? Something like this, something like that. And I'll definitely want to make 2D these situations, right? But from here, you know, this is of course how I would also make an elevation, right? Or a section of some sort. But I'd want to take some of these pieces and basically narrow it down to where I can use this as a template, right? Awesome. Right now at least I have one stair, and I could even, you know, keep my mistakes and things like that, or decide to fix them, right? So I could use fillet. These are even pieces that I could laser cut for myself to also further make a template, right? I could consider maybe this is laser cut and then the pieces on top are just sort of filled in. I create the box anyway. Does that make sense, guys? Hopefully for anyone paying attention anyway. For instance, I could take, you know, those pieces. I can count how many I need and make 2D of those boxes that I need. Right, so instead of doing any of the measuring and sort of cutting out all these pieces, basically I'm using for what I need. So basically this box isn't a box yet, so I just need actually this box. So I'm going to go ahead and join that one, move it, and now I've got my situation for here. Right, of course I can move these. I could even think about how those fold, right, because that's actually doable. You see what I mean? Like if I was to make those scores right here, but those cuts, right, these would all of course fold down and become the stairs. However, it's not going to work on the other side, right? So we'd have to do this multiple times. Or take this piece and double it. Join, copy. So basically we're just making one stair right now, right? Looks like I still need the landing. Now I'm not exactly sure what that landing does. I'm sure it's actually just an extension of this, but I don't want to make any, right, because I do have different landings. So I might need to think about, well, how am I going to make that? Don't need this anymore. Of course I can always make another. Let's go back to our other model. Perfect. What else will we need? Definitely the landings. They're a little particular. So we need to make sure we get the right number. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So you're going to definitely become to know your model very well. So we at least have a few of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like 5 and 6 are probably covered. That's okay. We'll take that piece, join it, move it, and use it. Of course we can line it up to the ones that are actually appropriate. It doesn't look like I found the right one. Maybe the wrong angle. Nailed it. So theoretically this could probably be cut in one piece. To be honest, it already kind of looks like a stair actually at a weird angle, right? But you know, we couldn't just send green lines to the laser cutter, so we would want to go back through the woodwork. I'm going to set them all to cut first, so change the cut. That way at least I know it's red, and then what I want to score I might actually have to explode and figure out a little bit. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and explode that, and of course I could put it back together. Right, but I have like 2 lines in here, so I might want to actually delete some and get rid of anything that I don't need, because that's going to make the laser cutter move a lot slower because it has to perform more lines. For instance, yeah, getting rid of some of these that of course have 2. Another way to sort of get around that would just be to make 2D this again, right? So if I make 2D, press OK, it's going to basically look like it made a copy. Right? In fact, it's going to put it in the exact same spot too. But it'll turn those lines into one line. Right? So that can be super helpful. And then of course the one that's bad, I'll sort of get rid of it, to be honest. Just because I don't want to get them confused, and I've already got something a little bit more simplified here. Yeah, it didn't turn two lines into one, but I can also just join those. Oops. So those are all cut. I do want to make sure that I score the right lines. So in my case, it's going to be just this little stair part, right? Because I do want all these pieces to basically fold there. And hopefully that makes sense. Maybe we'll send this one to the laser cutter. Do we have time? It's almost 9 o'clock. I think we still have time. Awesome. So now this would actually be ready to take to the laser cutter. I could both use it as my template on the top and actually as a foldable expression. I think I could still get away with even getting some more folds in there. So for instance, the bottom of the stair, I don't want to sort of leave it hollow or open, so I can get the bottom of the stair too. Now I could actually just calculate it, right? Based on the length of this, I could actually copy one of these, because well, it's going to be the same length technically. Of course it'll be at a perpendicular angle, so rotate. You should actually have a perpendicular setting. However, I don't know if it knows how to perpendicularly find anything from there. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. You should never do that for this, but for the sake of tutorial, right? And then of course I can check that, so actually there's a better way. Just because we have a 90 right there, kind of use some laws of math. Nice. And then move it. So got the perfect 90-degree angle, just remembering my proofs from geometry class. Okay. But it looks like we can get some of the pieces in there. Oh, gotta change the line weight. Another important piece that I forgot to mention, for laser cutter, we need these to actually be the thinnest line possible. So that's actually really easy. You would just change the layer itself. So instead of a print width at default, you would click on this and make sure that it's hairline. Now of course that's actually in the video for the laser cutter, but figure you should probably get it here as well. That's really important because, well, you don't want super thick lines on the laser cutter. You do want them to be absolutely the most small laser that it can be, which is 0.0001. Anyway, hairline. Looks like I still have a piece that I can fold here, so I need to score that, right? And I think we will laser cut this one today. Sounds like a nice little tutorial. Sweet. Otherwise, let me see. I know I'm probably forgetting even more things that I forgot. We covered topography. We covered the two different ways of making that topography. We talked about folding and unfolding and kind of how you just have to kind of make these shapes or make a template for yourself. Obviously I'm going to help everybody case by case scenario, just because everybody kind of has even some unique floors that easily could just be make 2D, laser cut that out, and of course filled in. You could also choose a different material, a very thick material, and it becomes the thickness that you need for the model. Does that make sense, guys? So it's like, for instance, I could choose foam core that it's already representation of 2 feet at 1/8 scale. I could just cut that floor out, done. I don't have to make a box every time that I want to make volume. However, hopefully you can see that this is an excellent tool set for some of the other volumes that you create in Studio, right? Especially massing models and things like that. Anyway, I'll go ahead and leave the tutorial here for today, and probably continue next week as well, as I'll remember some more things next week. Anyway,